dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable true complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Te ata om gate gate paragate parasangati bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, Sattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Shandara Samare Abhede Atom Gade Gade Paragade Parasangade Bodhiso Baba Gonjo Sanji Gai Nembe Doji She Lobodoji Mebodoji Shewadoji Shagi Baji Medumbi Judanji Jedingor Yezo Ngirin Donya Jejo Jewada Medo Nube Wada Domba Jujim Bunzun Zun Jodi Raji Yane Nadelejo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love. and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Vedam Guru Ratna Mandala Gam Niratayami. Yadan Jadi Janam La Yanju Badu Dani Yazuchi Nagi Chunye Jibe Sunamji Drola Benji Zanye Rubarjo. Yoda Zodi Janam La Janju Badu Dani Yasuchi Nagi Chunye Jibe Zonamji Drola Benji Zanye Rubarjo. Yoda Zodi Janam La Janju Badu Dani Yasuchi Nagi Chunye Jibe Zonamji Drola Benji Zanye Rubarjo.
Tomo Laja Balojam Sudan, Chibichimbi Laja Lojam Suson Le, Chibichungo the Tomo Laja Lojam Su, Tela Sambajan, Mota Sambati Chibice, Tela Ludu Sewa, Sunguna, Tamo Sambajan, Mota Jide Shema Tunji Lujibatan, Jide Shema di Tatemba, Tanjide Shema di Tatemba, the Jandu Tale Regima, Jandu Tale, Ta Jandu Tala, and then Josun Jo. Jasunri, Laja, Ji, no, what the Nangaso, Jandu Laja Catole, the Marbe, Jandu Laja the La, and then Doan Shibilaja, the Mangani Laja Marbe, Doan Shibilaja Jiseni, the Rus King Sarwa, that Mangali Shibil, Jandu Laja the La, and then Susu Laja, Tomong Lajani. Suju Lajatla, Gabi Laja, Ruby Laja, Ni, Tatumung Laja, the water cut to Lady Ba, Tumung Laja, the Lawate, Saji Troyo, or Watakuzo, Sajika to Kale, what Chijujana.
So once again, we are looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's text, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment. And if we look at the outline, we begin with how to rely upon the teacher that is the root of the path. And then the next category, how students train their mind in the stages after having relied upon the teacher. And if we look at that next section of how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher, we find two main categories. One, an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and then a second category of how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. Under that second category of how to take advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, we find three major headings: training the mind, the stage of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity and its explanation; training the mind, the stage of the past shared in common with beings of medium capacity and its explanation; and then training the mind, the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. So we're currently in the section of training the mind, the stage of the path shared in common with beings of small capacity and its explanation. And we find three outline points under that major heading. First, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity. Second, the measure of the attitude of a person of small capacity. And then third, dispelling or getting rid of any misconceptions related to a person of small capacity. So under that first category, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, we find two outline headings. First, developing the state of mind that strives diligently for the sake of future lives. And then secondly, relying on a means or relying on a method for achieving happiness, in one's next life. So under the section of relying on a method or relying on a means for achieving happiness in one's next life, we find two major headings at that point. We find refuge and karma and its results. And under the section of refuge, which is the gateway or entrance into the teaching, we find four categories. First, the causes for going for refuge. Second, based on that, the objects to which one goes for refuge to. Third, how to go for refuge. And then fourth, advices related to refuge or precepts of refuge. So the advices related to refuge section or the precepts of refuge section is explained by way of in two specific ways. First, the explanation is by way of the compendium of determinations, and we find two sections that deal with that. And then we find the explanations that are according to the oral tradition. And in the oral tradition, we have the specific precepts and then the general precepts. And in the specific precepts section, or the uncommon section, and the uncommon section, we find the precepts of, or the advices on what to do, and then the advices on what not to do. And then we have the shared in common, or the general precept section, and that's where we currently are in the text, the general section in the oral tradition. So I'll find the English now page for everyone. Okay, so it's on page 196 where we begin the general precepts, or the precepts that are in common.
Ta chandu laja sige to ta kante konju sung la chasun ru sa du le konju sung la chasun ru sa du wo de dru go ya de le chandu laja sa pe chi wo de me ta chandu laja de chung du chu ju be ju sung de shi ba sha na bi chu ko la ma du na che bu sung la de ba na du de ma ba wo de chama lo chandu laja yin ma ba chasun ru sa du an den ru la tabi la 사지 공투를 나간 걸로 로정식으로 어때 하셨을 때면로 근데 다달래 맨날 지내네 다다글 하지 칼안데서 그래 근데 마사스 맨데서 그래스 어떤다고 인사말이야.
So here to the Shanchi Landun
다 장들 하자서 장들 하자 건조선을 짜선도 도사도 장들 하자 하자 손으로 다 하는 하자가 된다서 남도 하자서는 가르쳐 그랬으나 하는 건조선을 짜선도 사도 ane chebu chungu lang, dringa lang, chebu chimi lang, lojong chegu kuro, laja se wote mendwa. Dada le mele kachi, dada laja chegu, kala ndesa, ndemaza,
So when we look at this section of precepts or advices, what does this mean? So if one goes for refuge to the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, then these are the advices or the precepts related to going for refuge. When we look at the quote from Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, we understand there are persons of three capacities, small, middling, and great. I shall write clearly identifying their characteristics. Here, we find the stage of the path of persons of three capacities, those pathways for persons of small capacity that lead to the higher realms. And within those instructions, we find the advices on those pathways that lead to the higher realms. And those in the medium, those pathways which lead to liberation. And then the great, those pathways which lead to complete Buddhahood. So these are the advices on how to achieve the higher realms, liberation, and Buddhahood. So this is what this word advices or precepts is referring to. And if one goes to a doctor and needs to be diagnosed and taken care of in some way, the doctor prescribes some kind of medication, and with the medication he or she says, don't eat this, do eat that, and so forth, and make sure you take your medication. And these are advices from a doctor. So these are what this word advices, and the translation committee is using precepts. Precepts is referring to.
Rosi Juna, also Lamrim no Geshe Lharampa. Tumunglaja la tu osrwa. Tumunglaja la tu. Konju Chebatan, Yuen Jesu Tempe, Yana, Johnson was Tambache, and Tambaredwa. I conjure Chebata, conjure Napazu Chebatal was Cheba, what Chebatan. And the conjunction to the Sanji to the Chuji, the Ganuji, and the Sanji Kuyu, the Sungu, the Tuji, the Teleju, the Duda Chuku, the Dubak was down there, Chuli Chibas, what the Nuki Mabajasma, what to Santa Imbere, Yana, the Johnson Roas, Tambuji, Tasaji Niba, the Kadin Tempe, Tutato, Chabala Tunji, Zawat, Jayu. Pujang Bilasa, the Sajiniba Dredwa, Sajiniba. Kadin Jesu Tempe, that Kadin Jesu Tempas, Conjunction Azul Kadin Chebres, Kadin Chebinta, and the Conjunction La Chubambu, Zawat, Jayu, Pudbugures. That Conjunction Azul Kadin Chebukandas Reguaresana, and then Azul Tayu, then Mail, then down, and the Pensu Subakangalo, Goala Teneshon. Gawate Sanji Tele Radio, things so one has to let Conjunction Cutting Latene, Lulon Person Subate, or the National Insta, and the Cutting Jesu Tene, and Conjunction Chubambi Ures, Nibato, the lady was a mother.
So then, in the section of the oral tradition, related to the precepts or advices, we find first the specific precepts or the precepts that are uncommon, and then the general precepts or the in-common precepts. And there are 6 categories of general precepts. So we'll look at the outline and then we'll go forward with the explanation of that outline in the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. So first we have the category of by recalling the distinctions and good qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge over and over again. So here, this deals with the various distinctions, or the differences between the 3 jewels that we went over quite a bit previously. and then the excellent qualities or the good qualities of the three jewels. And then when we look at the various sections that deal with each of the individual jewels, we find first the excellent qualities of the Buddha jewel, and then we have the excellent qualities of the Buddha's body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. And then when we have the excellent qualities that deal with the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel, we find various quotes from the compendium. We find the quote in both cases from the compendium of teachings, where we have the excellent qualities that are presented, summarized in that quote. So here it says, by recalling the differences or distinctions among the three jewels and the excellent qualities of the three jewels, go for refuge again and again. So this is the first precept or advice related to the three jewels. The second is, by recalling the great kindness of the three jewels, strive to worship them constantly and offer the first portion of your food and drink. So here we recognize that all of the things that we have, our enjoyments, our human basis of leisure, and so forth, are a result of the kindness of the three jewels. The reason for this is because all of these things that we possess are a result of virtuous activities or virtuous deeds. And virtue is the enlightened activities of the Buddha. Therefore, it is in dependence upon the enlightened activities or the virtue that we achieve this human basis and our enjoyments and so forth. Therefore, we recognize the kindness of the three jewels in allowing us this opportunity to possess these things, or aiding us in this opportunity to possess these things. If virtue is the cause of these things, virtue is the enlightened activities of the Buddha. So this is the point that's made in this second precept, general precept.
네 저런 전두제네 아부요래 전두제는 전두를 지거래 타바토거래 상지거래 디바탄을 어떤게 표현하면시네 노아진의 전두를 거 봐서 어떤이 받은 사마르바 다 손바드 샤와 강시장 그바 지여바나 그저 손라 최네 소한 대신 지대부터 좀 봉하스 어디지 받지러와 지받지 어디 지대면 다 샤와 레칸의 가르치고 있는 최단시 어디 건조송을 잡순데네 어디 르키는 제고레스 지대면 터진 봉고레스 근데 가도 변을 잔도 범보 뱀부 추도 어디 다 변신은 일년송 천년송도 잡순도 앞에 잡순도 변시고네 일년송 천년송 잡도 제고레스 안에 건조송 타나 얘기지 셔야 얘기지 셔랑 수기 셔야 마땅시 송하셔 어디 주바티서 말아
So the third point, establish other living beings in this practice by considering them with compassion. So out of compassion, one encourages other living beings to go for refuge by letting them know, by going for refuge you can achieve higher realm rebirth. By going for refuge you can achieve liberation. By going for refuge you can achieve complete Buddhahood. So here this is establishing other beings in the practice of refuge. The fourth point that's made is whatever activity you engage in, and whatever your purpose, make offerings and supplications to the three jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods. So whatever work one is engaging in with one's body or activity one is engaging in, for whatever purpose, one should make offerings with the body, make supplications with the speech, and so forth to the three jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods. And Rinpoche mentioned the Bon tradition here, forsaking other worldly methods. So maybe perhaps methods in the Bon tradition and other traditions. Number 5, after you have understood the benefits, go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. And then number 6, maintain your refuge and do not forsake the three jewels, even at jest, or if it costs your life, at the cost of your life. So these are the 6 general precepts in an abbreviated explanation, a condensed explanation. So we're going to go through this section in the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment. Even though we've already gone through it once, we're going to go through it in a condensed way now.
Nabi tembi chaba, shibi temba la luba dan, nabi temba la lubi chaba. Owa tu si she gores, tasun napen tu chaba, konju sun napen tu chaba, ane swaji konju, chu konju, gene konju, ane nga su wate, maso maji tuesha na jene ya, o san tanan di go jire, ane swaji konju, gene konju chaba kariyos, gene konju dan, ane chu konju chaba kariyo, wate Chabatana Digo, Nampasung Chabatene, and what the Saji Jude, Chujin Ganuga, the water Santana Digo, Ju Lama Le, and the Conjus Senior Sosa. Tatanama, Lari Kuruna Lule, and the Saji Conjuga, Chu Conjuga, Ganuga, Yang Sosi and Udua, what to Santa woman.
That's up. So then when we go to page 197 in the English, we begin with the section dealing with the first of the 6 general precepts. So it says, by recalling the distinctions and good qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge again and again. So it says, as previously explained. So as previously explained in this text, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, you should repeatedly keep in mind the differences between non-Buddhist and Buddhist, the distinctions among the 3 jewels, and the good qualities of the 3 jewels. So previously we went over the differences between non-Buddhist and Buddhist teachers, truths, and students. So the differences between Buddhist and non-Buddhist teachers, truths, and students. And then the distinctions among the 3 jewels. So if we wish to, we can look at the distinctions among the 3 jewels, or the differences between the 3 jewels, by way of 3 permutations, 4 permutations, mutually exclusive or synonymous. So we can compare these. So we can say, what is the difference between the Buddha and the Sangha? Are there 3 permutations, 4 permutations? Are they mutually exclusive or are they synonymous? What is the difference between the Sangha and the Dharma? Are there 3 permutations, 4 permutations? Are they mutually exclusive or are they synonymous? So we can look at, we can analyze these subjects of the 3 jewels and recognize their distinctions by way of these 3 or 4 permutations, etc. So then this is how we can establish the distinctions among the 3 jewels, and the good qualities of the 3 jewels. So we can find the excellent qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as presented in this text, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment. Before a more extensive investigation, we can look to Lord Maitreya's Sublime Continuum, where there are presentations of detailed definitions of each of these jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So we've gone over that previously. And then, good qualities of Disa. So now we're at the second precept.
Senye jang, tela sheba zumanju, she somba taras, she somba doa, saji niba doa tere doa. Kadin Chenmo Jesu Temple, Kadin Chenmo Jesu Temple, Tangaso, Tayu Tentan, Meilu Tentan, and the person of Tanji, Jukola Tenishon, Jukola Tenishon, Goate, and the Sanji Kadin, Conjusum Kadis. In Susan Tutato, Chobala Jungures, Zawat and Jaipu, and also Berabazu Lanchu, Dina water Tamake, Pudia Pugur, Chujimatumba in the Pudia Pugures, Miwane, Dingan the Jaboles, Swanji Sunan Chena, Senya Jan, Swanji Kaba Tamasun Susane, Sanji Senya, Sanjil Mapina, and then Swanji Semanyabatan Mare, Kaba Tamasun Susane, Senya. Ina Sanjil the Chuba Biba Sul Pantu Yungres, Sonata Jik Tusane, Dendru Yungre, Taba Yungre, Sanji Yungre, Susul Pen Yores. Tela Sheba Zumanjuro, Tela Sheba Zumanjuro, Shesum Bataras, Shesum Bata Waterloo Dane, Kazinebe, Sanji Kebatamasun Tusabe, Kazinebe Chene, Ranla Dele Tanji Jonyu. Dele Ranla Dele Kanjun Tanji Conjugal Tin to Shenes, Ran Dele Anetayu Tendan, and the Open Subatanji, Conjugal Tin to Sheba Shela, and then Sheba Zu Sambe Chobasha Hos, what things are Marva,
So the next point, by recalling the great kindness of the three jewels, strive to worship them constantly and offer the first portion of your food and drink. So here, this human basis of leisure and opportunity that we currently possess and the happiness we currently possess is dependent upon causes. What causes happiness? Virtue causes happiness. So happiness is dependent on virtue. Virtue is a result of the kindness of the Buddhas, of the three jewels rather. So this virtue is a result of the kindness of the three jewels. So here, out of a wish to repay that kindness, we offer the first portion of our food or drink. So this is referring to when we eat or drink anything at breakfast, lunch, or dinner, we make an offering of first to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Then here we have a quote from a sutra, from the King of Concentration's Sutra, where it says, though they obtain food due to the Buddha's merit, the childish do not repay their kindness. So here the Buddha's merit, we find that the Buddha achieved the mind that aspires to enlightenment and then accumulated merit for 3 countless eons. So here we recognize that all of the this human basis and all of the individual things that we possess that are good are a result of the Buddha's kindness. So here it says the childish do not repay their kindness. So here, by offering the first part of our food or drink, we are able to accumulate the 2 collections that are necessary for achieving Buddhahood, which are the collection of exalted wisdom and the collection of merit. And then Lama Tsongkhapa says, thus knowing that all temporary happiness and certain goodness that you experience, symbolized by food, are due to the kindness of the 3 jewels, you should make offerings with the intention of repaying their kindness. So recognizing that it's all these good things that we possess are symbolized by food, and all of our body and this life of leisure and so forth are a result, as before, of virtue, which is a result of the Buddha's kindness. So here, we should make offerings with the intention of repaying that kindness. Diksun.
Tamalama Kasur Saji Dombatul Piji, Junchu Tachus said Dabadu, Jude Chubambuya, Ta Chubambuya, everything happened. The J. Tani Saji Nibatama, Nizo Yundu, Choba Shawatan, Shebi Sambani Zudu, Saji Nibate, Choba Shawat, Shebi Samani, Choba Shawatla Juje, Shebi Sambata, Conjuson Chubabugina, Penchibures. Jusen Wool, Tusan Tan, what the Shebi Sambat Terendua, what the Sombat J, Shebi Sambat Sombat J, what the Kasa, what the Jebijin to what the Rendua, Sajini but Jebudu.
The giant Sheba Sachi Nipa. Okay.
The Tan German Saji Kurujena, Tachi Tombut J, Saji Tombut J, Nibate, Saji Nibate, Chubashawatan. Shebi Sambani Shadua Choba Shawat Sum Nibaje, shebi samba sombaji choba shawadil jo juyumudo tambala jo les
So when we look at this first precept, this would be called a continuous offering, or an offering that is done continuously or over and over again. When we look at the category, this is the offering that is continuous. Now, when we get into this next part, which is 2, by recalling the great kindness of the 3 jewels, strive to worship them constantly and offer the first portion of your food and drink. With regards to offerings, there are 2 points that are made. So Lama Tsongkhapa breaks it into 2 categories, the actions of offering, and then the attitudes of offering. And then in the section on the actions of offering, we find quite an extensive explanation with 10 points that are made. And then in the attitudes of offering section, we find the beneficial attitudes related to offerings, and then there are 6 points that are made at that point, in that section. So currently we're dealing with the actions of offering, and then there are 10 points that are gone through there.
That choba shawa koju solo choba be nyeba ko to wole nyeba to ko to remdo nyeba to ko koju solo choba karam be ure nyeba to ko di choba be ure saji san cheten la choba shawa nyeba to ko de ane saji san cheten la choba shawa la jo
So when we look at this first category, the actions of offering, and we ask what we are offering exactly to Buddhas and the stupas, we find later on the point that's made, offerings of wealth and service. So offerings of wealth and service are the offerings that we make to the Buddhas and to the stupas. When we're looking at the actions or the activity of making an offering, later on we find that point of what it is we offer.
What that choba shawat la chut karja warsana ane sanje ju kola choba chuden la choba ngosung tu choba ngosung mai bi choba ane rang la dan choba yen she du ju bi choba ranjen ni tumo tu choba what the kazerezmo kola choba chuden la choba ngosung tu choba ngosung jeje rang la dan choba ngaje yen la she du ju bi choba troje ane
tomo
ju dure doa du tene nyeba to kote se atu wote karcho gurusana nyeba to kote choba be gures
lesser
nyeba to kote wote roshin reserve yeah
okay. So then looking at the order of the 10, we begin with offerings to the Buddha's body, and then secondly, offerings to stupa. Third, offering to the directly perceived. Fourth, offering to the not directly perceived. Fifth, offering made by oneself, or offering made with one's own hands, literally. Next, offerings one helps others to make. And then seventh, offering that is in common that one makes and helps others to make. So these are the 7. And then it goes on to, when one asks what one is offering, then the section of offering of wealth and services is dealt with after that.
So now we're
going to the section, just to avoid confusion, anyone who isn't here, we're moving away from the model a little bit of the order in the English translation. So what you see is 7 is what Rinpoche is going to explain, but we're not enumerating that. We're using that. Number 7 is the offering made by oneself in common, that is made by oneself and for the sake of others. So that's number 7 that we're using. And this offerings of wealth and service, Rinpoche is going to explain now. As stated before, this is what one offers to the Buddhas and the stupas. Thank you. Less so.
And ta nyeba de imare nazata ngazo tolu tu sumare belekiti ta to su injiro da nazata sheze ta khala tu sumare be sheze ta and the Zinchetan, also Dentan, Belakatitan, near Dulu, Zinchetan, and the Dentan, and the Nuji Sumetans, Nasuna, and the Sag Me, Mary Vijetan, Dubatan, also, and Chinasuna, and the Bunamji Dua, what in the Menroa. Duba dance, Shema should be bird dance, Dayachi, Shema and the Suna, Zubul Shuna, Pandam, the Regerota. Shema should be bird dance.
Shema Sena.
Shema Sena, Pench the sheep.
Ointment.
Not so, don't you have to the Abijay. Meg the Zune, and to Shuado, Mazos on Telsuado.
Ointment.
Pando,
Cream.
Cream?
Okay.
Okay.
What is the thing somewhere?
Okay.
Shema should be blue dancer. Matuki Chewanda, Rumi Data.
Oh, okay.
A little perfume and it's cream, so forth, yeah. Yeah, so that's good.
What is inside the bag?
Yeah.
Rumi, Matuki Chewanda, Rumi Data. That was what is Rumi Damamu, Keta to the injury. Mamma had to be and what is not Chenmo Marbe. Lambert Lambert or the Biwa Dansa. What about the nearby says, nearby, and the Sanji could trading Chubambia nearby to the Suez. Da good to say at the garrison, good there, and Sanji could trading us over to Kubam Hawa. And Kubam Hawa, and this Sanji Rinpoche under the Treatise Rinpoche under the Kubam Hawa down, and then Sanji was over the Zula shots of down. What to down, also me to Yalan. Then another Jordan place on the Sea along the road, the Dabis down, Tamajawa down, and Turban to Juba, Turban to. And the Sanji Abushirari, Chene Abushirari, what the new Turban not to Juba in some other bed. You are long in Shashawa, Doan Shibishata down, Hang Shata to Zinjirota, Esukoa, Nasu, Chetan and Kolkura to Eguim, Esuko Barote, and what the Ego Dotan, and Padatanta to Egumendua, Egudan. And then Mother Tanta in Yoku. Shinla Soba, same Meshiba, Jimba dance, and the Shubit and the Yemba and the Sacha Jachim Pua, Sola Campua, what to do in Samarbe, Jimba Town, the Nuna Butan, Chenche Town, and the Ponjet and Azuta, Jensamu, the waters, Puatana, Jebumbu Town, Kashapana Tua, Kashapana Nui. Non to attend. Kashapan Jatunta Nerigin non just not so the Bajin wanted. Kashapan is Tanibal Mui Kishamu, not to send and to attend. Kashapan Toa down, Sibu Tea, Sanjis and Tea Chudella Chubao. Sibu said Takopa Matunda Tennis he was with the Chetan Sanjis Chubam Biamano. Sanji Dati, Sanji San, the Chuden La Chubasha nearby the good day, Karl Chogurusna, Sanji San, the Chuden La Chubasha Sanji the Chuden La Chua Chubizit, nearby the good
So here, then this offerings of wealth and service, let's see, it's a lot of information. I'm going to read it first and then just go through it. Offerings of wealth and service are offerings to a Buddha or a stupa consisting of gifts of clothing, food, bedding, seats, medicine, personal necessities, incense, aromatic powders and ointments, flower garlands, music, and various types of lamps. There is also offering respectful speech, prostrations rising before the other, hands joined together respectfully, a variety of praises, obeisance with your limbs and the head touching the ground, and clockwise circumambulation. Moreover, inexhaustible gifts such as wealth as fields can be given, as well as offerings of jewels, earrings, bracelets, and the like. At least there are offerings of bells, silver coins, and or spools of thread. So here we ask, what does one offer to the Buddha? What does one offer to the stupas? And here there are two divisions, offerings of wealth and then offerings of service. So when we first deal with the category of offerings of wealth, we find first consisting of gifts of clothing, so various types of robes and clothing, and food, so what food to eat, bedding, this could be blankets or anything that one uses at sleeping time, so the sleeping time items, beds or seats, medicine, if there is a need for someone to have this medication, one makes an offering of it, then this becomes an offering of medicine. Personal necessities, incense, aromatic powders and ointments, so ointments that one puts on, for instance, a sore that one has, or a cream that one rubs into a sore, so this is what aromatic powders and ointments. Flower garlands, music, there are many different kinds of music that one can make. For instance, the music that comes from a guitar or other instruments, and various types of lamps or butter lamps, and so these are the offerings of wealth. And then the next category, offering of service, there is also offering respectful speech. So, for instance, saying, this is the precious Buddha, this is the precious, is Dharma or Supa? This is the precious Buddha, this is the precious Dharma, this is the precious Sangha. Saying Sanjay Rinpoche, so meaning precious, the precious jewel of the Buddha, the precious jewel of or precious Buddha, precious Dharma, precious Sangha. Making prostrations, paying homage, rising before the other. So when, for instance, the Dalai Lama enters the room, everyone rises up. This is the reason for this, because the advices that are given here of offering of service, so rising up. Hands joined together respectfully, putting one's hands together. A variety of praises. Obeisance with your... so various praises are made. Saying very good things or making pronouncements of good things about the Buddha and the stupas. Obeisance with your limbs and head touching the ground. So here this is speaking of prostrations, the two different kinds of prostrations. The Vinaya prostration or the semi-prostration, and then the tantric prostration or the full prostration. And it says, and clockwise circumambulation. So this clockwise circumambulation we find presented in the Sutra tradition, as well as the Father Tantras, but we find counterclockwise circumambulation in the Mother Tantras. And then it says, moreover, inexhaustible gifts such as fields can be given. So if one is poor and doesn't have things to offer, one can make offerings of fields, one can make offerings of monastery, and so forth, can be given, as well as offerings of jewels, earrings, bracelets, so these are jewelry and the like. At least there are offerings of bells, silver coins. So here silver coins is referring to making offerings of, this is a type of money in the Tibetan. It's speaking of the type of money, silver coins or spools of thread. Here the threading that one could string flowers on and make offerings to the Buddha or the stupas. So this is the point in this section. So this paragraph is dealing with what one offers to the stupa, what one offers to the Buddha. So.
That's right. What also Nabi Chu to Jena Chotin Chuada, Sajil Chuad, Karcho Grusana, Nieba the Kuti Chugres, Jibajin Momuda.
So in the Buddhist tradition, what does one offer to the Buddha and what does one offer to the stupa? Here we find the answer: one offers wealth and services.
That children that you should not Hindu down or the so Tendrabachin Rabumar. The issue Jina, Jesus, the Gazel, Geshe the Garden Chuba Bumarba, Karachuba Bugu, near the Kota Shiba Marba, then the Hindu Shiba Chuba Bugure, near the Kota Rote, Kota Nalukapaja.
So we find similarities in other traditions that are not Buddhist, where we find offerings, for instance, in the Christian tradition or the Hindu tradition. In the Christian tradition, we find one making offerings to the God, to Jesus. In the Hindu tradition, we find one is making offerings to Shiva and others. So what are they offering? They're offering wealth and services. So this is something we find in common or similar. Something that comes forth similar, is similar.
So
now we're on number 8, vast offering.
Jachi Chuba Saganta, Niabata Kutala Subatusuki, and many years Chuba Tanjila, Niabata Kuti, Yurim Chuba, Niabata Kuti, Yurimbo, Rimbo Chuba Tes, Yurim Chuba Tanjila, Jachi Chuba Logres, Tea, and Chuba Mobo Moa, Chuba Bia Mobo Moa, and Puitabo, Zawa, and Zawa Tansa. Zawata, and then Monson Chuba, the Monson Miami Chuba is at the best. And Monson Yeme, Rata Genji, Sheba Tansa. Then he taban and Gashi, Mabata Bichuba, Chula, Gawate, Zubishan Chuta Moa, the Dune Onsa. That Dune the Jao do, nearby the good Chuba Ambiagi Chuba there. And the Mabuchi Chiche, Zawachi, Nije, Mosun Yimba the Mayama Nije, Randa Genjiva, and Truche, and then the bear. Hint Jedba. Hintabane,
Zawa, Musamian, Randa Shenji Jepa,
Mawa, Zawa, Mosun Yimeni, the Redana, Jeden Marba, Randa Genjiva.
Randan Shen the Randan Shen Tambo Mopumawa, Nipa Zawa, Sumba Musamian, Yemen, Jipa Randan Shenji Jepa, Napa Nintapa, Nikashing, Drupa, Mupa, Drapo, and Dumba Gewa Deyang.
What the Nasi do.
Okay, so then when so number 8 deals with vast offerings. Vast offerings means offerings of the above wealth and service over a long duration. So making offerings of those things just mentioned, wealth and service, and doing it for a long period of time. Furthermore, they have 7 qualities of being, first quality is being copious, second quality excellent, third quality both perceived and not perceived, fourth quality done by oneself and others, fifth quality being offered with heartfelt delight, sixth quality fervent aspiration, a strong aspiration, and then the seventh quality with the merit being dedicated to perfect enlightenment. So these are the 7 qualities that are related to offerings of wealth and service over a long duration of time. And this is called the vast offering.
Jeba Jachi Chobaje, Ta Goba the Nyomoja Maimi Choba the Mala, Goba Nyomoja Maimi Choba, Goba Nyomoja Maimi Choba ne, Chesu Tan, Pamen Tan, Le Genje du Majuba, Manjukis, Chesu Tan, Chesu Jene, Niaba the Koti Choba Bubaina, Nyomoja Redu, Chesu Jene. And then near about the good children, the quality of Babaina, Numoji Choba and Gojota, and the Pameba, Gi, Goada, and the Goat and the Maiba, what they Pamebi, Sambi, Unchoba Babaina, Numoji Choba and Gojota, Pameba, Tenen Yomo, Tene Casa,
Lelo,
Lelu Wagi, chobabiwa nyomo jere ndo jero
Less so.
ane cheso da ba me lelo da mande wangi ane rang la den chobabiwa nyomo je mai mi chobare koba sheba nyomo je mai bi chobare se mai ba sheba de nyomo je mai mi chobare chasu da mande ba nyomo je mai ba sheba da 사제 la tebi jabu soli nyego to derene meje baje ane tumbi ngobu de wote chudele wote sagres marbe
Less so. So the next number 9 is offerings not contaminated with the afflictions, or not possessing the contaminated, possessing the afflictions. Are offerings with 6 qualities that are made. So first it says, with one's own hand, not making others to do them out of contempt, carelessness, or laziness. So here, if one offers wealth and services, but still possesses the afflictions of contempt, or possesses the affliction of carelessness, or possesses the affliction of laziness, then that offering is not an offering not contaminated with the afflictions. But if one makes an offering with one's own hand and does not have the presence of the afflictions, or does not have the afflictions, then it becomes an offering that is free from the afflictions, and therefore an offering that is not contaminated with the afflictions, or not possessing the afflictions. So this offering of wealth and service becomes an offering not possessing afflictions if it doesn't possess afflictions. So then the second, so this is one among the 6 points that are about to be made, the 6 qualities. The next is respectfully. The third, which is 2, the third is without distraction. The fourth is free of afflictions in that they are not mixed with attachment and the like. Number 5 is without expectation of receiving wealth and service from kings and so forth who have faith in the Buddha. And then number 6 is concordant offering. So these are the 6 qualities of the offerings not contaminated with afflictions.
What the total Nyamoje Maibi Kasa Tumbi Ngobo Lava Ina and the Metubi Ngobo Cario Harris. Metubi Ngobo Cario Arsana, Metuba and the Res Woman, Metuba Palesio Batan, Marco Troadan, Kogudo Batan, Aki Matula Sobatan, Aki Matula Sobatan, Jean, Uji Rouen Maiba, Uji Rouen Mebatan. Tawa Roma Wosa. Tanda to Moro, Matibi opened the same, but
Less so.
Matiba Palesio was my bear. Palas and also say Namaji, say me Matapala means as an Asachila there, Marbe. Palas say Nabajuro, Satuzilla, say Mesatuzilla, and the Palat Sugar. What the Palesio Shabat to Moro, but Palapice to Zedi Mendoa. To green chair. Palesio Batan, and the team with Palette to Maku Trubaina, Maku Troatansa. Kogudu was an also gated down to Le Chisa de Ajno, or to Chobati remember that. To green the year. Kogudu Batan, Aki Matula Subatakante, Togi Mutu to Sinsare. She no Tori Moburo, the Sumututa, Tori to Matumbare, Roma Maimbare, Roma Maimba, the Travajugore, Tubing over the what the song said.
So then, so we're just switching a little, if anyone's following in the English here, because here we're changing proper material accompaniments, and we're just making it into concordant things. So concordant things include whatever is free of non-concordant things, or things that are not concordant or not appropriate. You could use looser, but concordant, not concordant. So it says as well as proper acts as anointing something with. So these are not concordant. So this is the category of non-concordance. So we find bala. It says here medical ointment. Rinpoche is saying bala is a kind of a paint that one can use that it makes it look like one is using gold in some way, but it Rinpoche is saying he believes it's within the class of poisons. So this is why it's not an appropriate offering to use. So it's like a paint that they could paint on the face that could make it like gold, but it's not an appropriate offering. Soaking something in clarified butter. So if one uses boiled butter, clarified butter, to wash a dish, then that won't allow the dish to become clean. It won't clean the dish. So this isn't appropriate. And then it says here it says burning a fragrant gukul resin. Here Rinpoche is saying the spirit offering, the remnants or the leftover of a spirit offering that one makes when one is making an offering to the spirits is what this gukul is referring to. And making an offering of this is not appropriate. This is a non-concordant offering. And then offering white akra flowers and so forth. So an akra flower is a poisonous flower. So this is a flower that is not appropriate to offer and categorically falls in a discordant or non-concordant class of offerings. Rinpoche chuchu dan je. So we'll take a short break and have some things, some cookies. So in this, question was just raised, and thank you, Rinpoche, for helping with the translation. Question was just raised that in this section it says offering your first part of your food or drink. Many people have asked the question, does this mean that one should separate part of their food and drink out and then make the offering of it and put it on an altar? Or is this just referring to making the offering before you eat it of the food? So Rinpoche helped us out with the Tibetan language within it. And this term that is used where it says first part could be interpreted in the way that it sounds like it's a separate part, but it really means at the beginning. When one begins, before one eats, one makes this offering. So first one makes an offering, so the first part, one makes an offering, and then one can eat the food, so before one eats it. So that's just some clarification of the English wording, and a lot of people have asked that question, so hopefully that was helpful. So it literally means first offering this to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and then one can eat or use the drink. It doesn't mean separating something out. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
first part, music chassis 주셔도 chassis 고속이 고노 같았으나 너무 같이 제표 알시는 소소 사고에서 막 저기 너무 저거 표표스디 마사콩라 세세스 마사콩라 저기 추추기던 저 마사콩라 지셔봐 표 알시는 사야 돼 어떤 로시라 저거 다 표도 소피아요 로가로 왔대
다 저봐 표야도 어디가 저봐 그 표사 위에다 저봐다 저봐 표견도 어디가 땡데레
So when we're making an offering, we have to look at the when we look at the action agent and the object. So the object of offering, what we're making the offering to, the action of making the offering, the doing of the offering, and the person who's offering, the offerer, we have to recognize is not truly established because of dependent origination. So when we're making these offerings, we need to recognize the lack of true establishment of action agent and object. So if we think of emptiness while we're doing this, then anger and wrong views cannot harm the process, cannot harm. And making a dedication is very important. So when one puts a drop of water in the ocean, that drop of water is not extinguished till the entire ocean is. So even if we engage if we accumulate a small virtuous activity, if we dedicate it to becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, then this this small amount of virtue remains with us until we actualize that goal, until we become an actual Buddha.
Just sentient tantric so to be jur hosha gawate and the sanji go matu seyayo mares.
Just so, then that's why the quote says, just as a drop of water in the ocean is not extinguished until the entire ocean is extinguished, virtue that is dedicated to enlightenment remains until one becomes completely enlightened or achieves that goal. So when one dedicates one virtues to becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, then that virtue remains with him or her until Buddhahood.
What the Tananga so what in the on the Katagi water Marbe.
Where are we?
You want member Tawa was once. That's something Choba that rank Drubata, Geshe Lharampa Menas, something Choba be never to go to so, and the Rale me, Geshe Lharampa Ina, and Choba be a Jimajilat La Togmares, the Jinshi be Choba Kaya. Jiden Jikanas, Jiden Jikana Dado Mazui, Sotan, Retan, Matutan, Shilasuba, Kesumi, and the Jen Gala just Jiran Jigina, and Tutu Nugre, Eji Meji, Chubambuya, Nabakut, Sosul Yoga Maris, Kayaba, Gawatan, Jachembula, Mabatan, then be sent Chabra, Shena, Iran Shena. Two chung maybe chung maybe Choba Jachambo Shachuji two yonsu do this Talan Tato Sen Yang Dawatan Sen Gayu Jamba Shahos do Tato the Choba Tenabu Jesu Rajigina Konkaba. Kabasondos and Dodo Conjutin Tansi Sunkabale Sondos Dabe Mazui Matutan, Drevetan, Shintan, Remachela Soba, Tajan, Uwashaos, Wategata, Social Bua Mabayina, Tendesan Tanjavina, Chobandito Gomare.
So, if you have neither prepared these offering materials yourself nor requested them from others, so if you don't have these offerings for yourself or requested them from others, you should delight in all the appropriate offerings to the Tathagatas that exist throughout the universe. Imagine them to be vast and pervasive and rejoice in others offering them. So rejoice in other offerings that are made. So if one doesn't have wealth and services, then one should delight in all the appropriate offerings to the Tathagatas that exist throughout the universe. Imagine them to be vast and pervasive and rejoice in others offering them. So, having made this great measureless offering, you will with little difficulty amass the accumulations necessary for attaining enlightenment. Strive constantly to do this with a contented, happy mind. And then here, then where do we find these points that are made? And then we find them in the Cloud of Jewels Sutra in the array of the three pledges. It says, as it says in the Cloud of Jewels Sutra and the array of three pledges, you can also give unowned flowers, fruit, trees, jewels, and the like. So if one doesn't have anything to offer, one can offer things that are unowned, such as these things.
What that done that Ruby Choba, ta Choba Shawala Jules, Choba to the Ruby Choba, Choba Shawal Jo, and Sanji Kola Choba, Chedana Choba, Mozun Choba, Mozun Mahimbi Choba, Rank Ladan Choba, Yen Shet Chubi Choba, Ranet Mong Choba, and Jachi Choba, Nyomoji Mahimbi Choba, and what the Ruby Choba. So
now we've arrived at number 10, offerings of practice. So we've gone through all of the other 9 categories. We've gone through offerings to the Buddha, offering to the stupa, offering to the directly perceived, offering to the not directly perceived, offering made by oneself, offerings made for the sake of others, or that you help others to make, offerings that are in common, made by yourself and that you help others to make, offerings that are vast or vast offerings, and then the 9th one, the offerings not contaminated with the afflictions. So the 10th category is offering of service, or of practice rather. These are the 10 that are mentioned. There are 10 categories, and we're now on the 10th category, offering of practice.
다 루비 줘봤네. 어디 줘봤더래도 루비 줘봤네. 타나 반주 땅도야. 체매제당, 최지동제당, 자순당, 파신 지수 템바당, 사무동바니라, 면신 모두바 내바당, 최진라 동생셰바당, 샹슈지 쇼당, 파신당, 도와질라 공바당, 도와질라 공바당, 전바 오사. 어디 줘봐도 어디래서 된날 답에 라그가 어디 뒤샤나 무대 총으로도 주주비 집어송도 시바자 집에 총을랑 딩글랑 딩도 통물랑 집이랑 용주도 어떤 죄된다 무대 타나 반주장 되죠 도통지마도 매바 이나야 는 체매지 공부를 체매지 뭐야 생주변세도 말이야 체매지 공야 되는 주지 동제 두지 타제 맞아봐 사지 타제 도경와 최단지 동시 담아봐 냥알도 봐 시신거와 주지 동제에서 그래 다와 가다 지사제에서 말이야 다와 가다 사제제 켈렘 가자데 남아 상집이 좋다 마이 체니스나 베진 좋다지나 못해서 말이야 대가 말했어 장제바제나 다와 가다 사제제는 다음에 해야 되지 매지 다음에 참을 자고 말했어 따지 나와지다 마루벌잔 지그레스 다가다 샤제 켈렘 가자데 나마상지 주타마이 천이샤는 지그레스 워트스가 두든 잡은다고도
Okay, let's
소데 다음에 그좀 대제미스 따지 나와지 다도 마루바데 다음에도 잔 지그레스 대인소자 먹고 등하데 시르버 말 나바레지부터 배책 먹고 등하데 나마상지 주타마 강아시 다가다 샤지 케멜레베스 다음에 케멜레베스 다도 주바 켈렘베스 카지 드니 젠이 담다 라수주메 가제 오마주 롱장 말베 워트스 카둘레 자체물 로도다.
Okay, I'm going to give this a shot. So the offerings of practice entail recollecting the four immeasurables, the fourfold condensation of the teaching, the three refuges and the practices, and the perfections, admiring profound emptiness and fixing on it without conceptualization, disciplining your mind through the vows of ethical discipline and meditating on and striving for the factors of enlightenment, the perfections and the four ways to gather disciples. Do so with great effort. Here we find first when one is making an offering of practice. First of all, this section is a very important section. It encompasses the meaning of that first point made in the introductory stanzas of the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment that states, understand that there are persons of three capacities, small, middling, and great. I shall write clearly identifying their characteristics. So here, this section really summarizes those pathways for beings of great capacity, those pathways for beings of medium capacity, those pathways shared in common with beings of small capacity, those pathways shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and then those pathways for beings of great capacity. So we find this section really condensing all of that. So it begins with the four immeasurables. So the four immeasurables referring to the prayer that begins with, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, etc. So this is the four immeasurables, and then the fourfold condensation of the teaching. And we find Jamyang Sheba stating that if one is a holder of this fourfold condensation of the teaching, then this is an acceptable definition of a holder of Buddhist tenets. So this differs from what Panchen Sonandrapa states, but Jamyang Sheba states that this is an accurate example, and that the selflessness that is being spoken of here is not speaking of subtle selflessness, it's speaking of coarse selflessness. And we find that the distinctions that made in the Madhyamika Avatara between a Buddhist and a non-Buddhist practitioner is that the Buddhist practitioner holds the self, the lack of a lack of a true self, or a lack of a true permanent partless self. Here, this fourfold condensation of the teaching can be said that what qualifies is a suitable qualification for one to be a holder of Buddhist tenets. So let me see.
그래서
Ngay Sampa Disung. I think I forgot.
근데 저송래도 간주 사지 근주 주근주 그네 근주도 제 아버지 저도 제 아버지 우에서로 근데 파신 just 램버스 파신 다 뒤 바로 뒤에서 제비 바로 뒤에 니스 그러다 다 뒤 바로 뒤에서는 자주 세비 랑가도 말이야 솔랑줄랑 돌랑골랑 물루랑 말 물루랑한테 뭐래
Lesson.
뒤 바로 뒤에서 솔랑 대제 솔랑 줄랑 골랑 골랑 어디지 뒤 바로 뒤에
Lesson.
물루랑한테 제비 바로 뒤에
Lesson.
어때 말이야
Lesson.
야 파신 just 램버도 어디면로
Okay. Lagwe.
Ora ta tomba ni la menji motu ba ne ba ta tomba ni la santa ane motu tomba ni la me bi shine da sa tong de go ne ane motu ba jul ja yo ro da to ni mo so tu ya da wa ta de ge shine tu de ya motu ba ji ja do ne ba da su jin la do sen she ba da su jin ta su su ta bi dong ba sha ju sen bi dong ba ha dong tu so ane so so ba de 랑사바데 야바송이 인상바 인지레 노선 셰바다 샤주 주슈다 샤주 스디오 와드나루레 제부 중고다 동물 라지레바다 리다 동물 라지레바다 좀 걸로 와드는 조금데 손주 뒤에다 손주시 천송 예셰지 남바 나셰지 남바 나제지 남바 손주 나제 남바 손주 스디 샤주 스디도 말에 가지고 되더라고 와데 테메지 두리지 남바 집은 리다 통을 말이야. 전날에 중고도 통을 나도 되는 거지래. 샤주지 쇼다스. 되네 파신데 어딜 파신도야. 파신당 뒤지성도 오마데 비지 주 파신 잡아도. 자주 메지 파신 주다. 연주 메지 뒤용 없이. 파신도 시스 버바시 말이야. 뒤용 없이데 젬바지 안에 해봐 마와지 So
then says the three refuges. So this is referring to the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel, and the perfections. So here we are speaking of perfections or prajnaparamitas, the paramitas, the causal perfections and resultant perfections. So causal perfections are referring to, when we look at the 5 bodhisattva paths or 5 Mahayana paths, the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of seeing, and the path of meditation are referring to the causal perfections. And then the path of no more learning is referring to the resultant perfection. So here, the perfections referring to causal perfections and resultant perfections. Then it says, admiring profound emptiness and fixing on it without conceptualization. So this is meditating upon emptiness and acquiring a union of calm, abiding, and special insight, which utilizes as its object of observation emptiness, and then arriving through calm, abiding, and special insight at a non-conceptual realization of emptiness. So having a non-conceptual, direct, valid cognition of emptiness. So here, this is what this admiring profound emptiness and fixing on it without conceptualization, achieving a non-conceptual understanding of emptiness. Disciplining your mind through the vows of ethical discipline. Any among the vows or ethical practices, such as the individual liberation vows, the bodhisattva vows, the tantric vows, and meditating on and striving for the factors of enlightenment. The factors of enlightenment we find when we look at the Abhisama Alamkara in the 4th chapter, we divide the 3 exalted knowers of hearers, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas into 37, 34, and 39. So when we look at these 37 factors of enlightenment, the 37 factors are referring to those factors that are in common with beings of small capacity, and specifically the teachings for beings of medium capacity. So these 37 factors of enlightenment would categorically fall under that. and we find the 7 categories of the 4 close placements of mindfulness, the 4 perfect abandonments, the 4 aspects of legs of magical emanation, the 4 aspects of the 5 aspects of the faculties, the 5 aspects of the strengths or powers, the 7 aspects of the branches of enlightenment, and then the 8 aspects of the path of the branches of the path of the nobles. So Rinpoche enumerated them before, and we were lacking in that, so we're just enumerating them now. The 7 divisions of the 37 factors. Then, I'm sorry, and then striving for the factors of enlightenment, the perfections, 6 perfections, the 10 perfections, and the 4 ways of gathering disciples, and do this with great effort. Doaji lasen.
Doaji, heba mawa,
Generosity.
and tenshu tenyu marba, jimba, and jimba tang, and kecha keba shego, kecha toba de jen nedu marba, heba mawa, and the ubazo kecha to what the shesa shira or the nijiroda, heba mawa. Then the tenshu tenyu. Susu Malaysia Shabbat, the Susu Nyalaje waters.
So then the 4 ways of gathering disciples deal with being generous, so that they're being generous to the students, so that they will take on the teachings, speaking sweetly, speaking very nicely, speaking with a nice voice, so they will follow, speaking with it sweetly, working for their benefit, and then practicing what one is saying. So individually engaging in the practices that one is advising. So these are the 4 ways of gathering disciples: acting generously, speaking sweetly, working for their benefit, and then engaging in the practices oneself.
Kola choba la subi choba chunduwa sheba tang shebi sa choba shawa de shebi sama ni le choba shawa de churo chudege choba de kunju son la choba de yonsu subi choba res dama del juncho yoro juncho je yonsu subi choba je ni je da somba shebi sama somba rendo somba dama le choba shawa de shebi samba yoba wa de shebi samba dindere doda shebi samba choba shawa da shebi samba ni le dombola chus tama shebi samba de la de yorwa shebi samba dere tada gi chobi tsna sa nyaba da kodu zu nyaba da kode ane sanjira soba da la chobi tse konju sun karon la chongshi shejang and river bathroom by Yungres, Conjus on Cheba Chuchu Mapiba Inaya, and river Mambo Yungre, bathroom by Yungres, Jutenchi. Then in nearby there, you enter Kona maybe. Conjus on but you enter Kona Meba Ina, you enter Kona Meba Ina, and until Chongi, you enter Kona Meba Ina till Cheba in a pension. Yamba down. Penduba Kona Meba Penduba, and then what the sentient Penduba Saguna, Penduba Kona Manto Nyabatan, Sombaje, sentient Taji Chu in the conjunction of the sentient Taji Chu in Yabatan. Odunwari, Matutara, Shinto Kono Yabatans, Odunwari Matute, Shajatuba, Damalil Pedule, Matut Kashigoro. Chajatuba Kunyan, they sweet Yabatanasa, Matut Yomarva. Then Naji, and the Saji attend Abbot, Jinage Kanchina, Saji Umar, Jima, Jina, Haji Mesher, Saji Jima, the people government. Odunwari Matutar Kono Yaba, Saji Combores. Maketa Drakini and maybe Kaba the Mabusharis, Sanji Mabi Kaba the maybe Kaba, Sanji Pibi Kaba the Dramin Kaba, Dramin Kaba the Shira Combores, what is inside Yabatan. Don't champion Jidenkana, G. Konan Joyu, Sanji G. Konan Yungurematu, Jane Umaris. What did Chubambi in the Penchibus? Just send a true them.
Drupa gare.
Shebi samba teredwa. Jiten le mande.
Okay, Jiten le mande. Okay. Okay.
What the truth is that?
So, make these 10 types of offering to the 3 jewels. To make offering. So when we look at the 2 categories of offering, actions of offering, and then the attitudes of offering, we find these 10 categories related to the actions of offering. And then the next point's related to the attitudes of offering. It says the second aspect of offering, the attitude, is as follows. When you make these 10 types of offering, there are 6 attitudes that will render immeasurable the result of even a small offering to any of the 3 jewels. You should make offerings with the thoughts that. So here, these are the beneficial thoughts that one has when making offerings, and by doing so, one will, when even making a very small offering, have a very large amount of benefit. So here, these are the 6 attitudes that one should have. First, that there is no higher field of excellent qualities. There is no higher field of Buddha. There is nothing higher than these jewels. There is no higher benefactor, or there is no one who wishes to benefit more, or who is of more benefit. He is the best of all living beings, the highest of all sentient beings. This fourth is, he is extremely rare, like a Udamvara flower. An Udamvara flower is a flower that came into the world when Buddha came into the world, Buddha Shakyamuni. And then when Buddha Shakyamuni passed into nirvana, the flower left the world. So it was only in existence during the time of birth to passing into nirvana. So it's a very rare flower, considered a rare flower because of this fact. And then the rarity, the point of rarity goes on to say, since only one Buddha appears in a universe of 3 billion world systems, he is the only one. So it's not necessary for more than one Buddha to come. We find that the Buddha is able to answer simultaneously with one response to all beings' questions. So it's not necessary for more to come. Only one comes. And if we look at it in terms of time, if we look at it in terms of the dark degenerate times, or the light times, or the light times of light, or non-degenerate times. Degenerate times are the times when there is no Buddha in this world. And there are many, many more eons of degenerate times than there are of positive times, or times of light. So it's a very rare situation because with all of this included, only one Buddha appears during the times when the Buddha appears. So it's quite rare. And it says then, he is the foundation of all mundane and super mundane good, or all worldly and non-worldly good.
Ta junju de choba shawa de shebi samba tutu ane ka susung warizna ne lebe baba to me shansa le sondo jerme chewate shansa sondo selemba is odu.
So then Geshe Rinpoche, if one is to ask, where do we find these actions of offering of 10, and then the attitudes enumerated by 6? Geshe Rinpoche posits that we find this in Master Asanga's Bodhisattva bhumis, the Bodhisattva levels.
Ta denma junju je choba shawa je denne shebi samba song je shebi samba somba de somba shebi samba somba je ta ulman ja jebe reshe je ne saji junju je choba shawa je shebi samba song je ulman je
okay. Okay. So then when we look at the way that we, according to Jamyang Sheba is outlined, we find the 13 categories. So we have 10 more to go. We've already gone over the first category of continuous offering, the second category of action of offering, and then the third category of attitude of offering. So we have 10 more according to Jamyang, components of offering, or divisions of offering according to Jamyang Sheba's commentary.
Dan jaje be what the tuji chabandene tu jumbar tada chediba shala tu zanta ane tu chenji sena rang neba ta tumba chaba zambar shaos what the tuji chabares jaje be ane neba to kuti cheden ta ane saje to sol kadu chogres when apring kadu chogresna ane judone Suzu kantu judu choba buyus, 2 ans, teni sagandawa dan, gaten nga chusanda dan, o tendege tusole ane choba zambu pyutu ne abores, de tuji choba se tenguyos.
So the next section, if we're looking at the divisions according to Jaya and Sheba, deals with the time, when the time to make the offering. So it says you should always make the best offering you can. Make especially good offerings on auspicious occasions and holidays and to the best of your ability. So when one is making offerings of wealth and service, when is the time to do so? So one can individually make offerings, but during auspicious occasions, such as during Sakardawa or during the Lama Tsongkhapa Day, during these various great times, we find their increased benefit by making offerings at this time. So this is the section of the time to make the offering.
다 yin tene ma zatung se de ce chung tu chebu zubi cheba tene tengu yos kali chuchung ji tu chebu zugo ba yina wote chu de wote ne jerme de son bares yin ne zatung jun de sha gobes yin zatung ane ga sa to abere ba se la chu wote su ga jun de sa gro da jun de sha gobe di zene da ga pyji choba da pyut choba machaba jeba ina chona chu mombo che chung zube chuyen je kan la longshebi pyji jang ni taba ne choba shawo che chung chu chenbu zubi choba wo de tengu yo sata.
So this next section, according to the outline, is an offering, a small offering that becomes great. So here, this next part, furthermore, since you constantly have to eat and drink, always offer the first portion of your food and drink. If you do this without fail, you will easily amass a large accumulation of merit. Thus, from the depths of your heart, always offer the first portion of whatever you consume, even water. So something that is small that becomes vast or great. Merit that is small that becomes great, or amass a large accumulation of merit. So this is the next section.
Oh, that done Madabi Chobas, dene tengu Madabi Choba, the Teon, Tujin Hosatan, Levin Sasa, Tabu ne Mai Jis, and the Kanzan and Shagulas, Chai Pusun Rela, Biwa Guji Chan, Du Sewan Dawa, Mon, She Shadaye, Son de Jons, what the Madabi Choba tengus.
Dapasena? Dapasena?
Madabi Choba. Tabi Choba, the Madabi Choba Zuna?
Dapa Madap.
Penang Kala Kala, Barabas, Lanch, or the Kala Rubachasuna, and the Swaji Pin and Rigmaras, Madab Chobaris.
Inappropriate.
And the two Nazu, two Runa, two Nazuba in the two La Rota, two Jumosasana, Rena Marba, Mang Hobachasana, what does Pin and Rigmar, Lomi says that Takmate, Jala, Doja to Puju Marasmo inside.
Okay. So the next is inappropriate offerings, not offering that which is inappropriate. It says, Sharawa stated, do not offer things such as moldy, sweet cheese and yellowed leaves, but use what you have that is good. Offering the first portion of tea will not be beneficial if it is done like clearing off some dust. So I asked Rinpoche the word that we're using for inappropriate, what would be something that would be inappropriate. And Rinpoche gave examples of moldy cheese and then saying the butter that's turned green. Butter that's turned green, moldy cheese, these things would be objects that are not appropriate.
Ta dumba chobala kubi tsudrendwa. Dumba de chobala kubi tsude. Chobala kubi tsudwa de ne ten dosa janjebe. Pena shinsa shinto shenba shila sabun de duso mataba dubandana te taranju mapeba tarar. 다 간다 신사 신도 신바스는 아주 버버제는 신사 신도 신사 도자로 말বে 신사 신도 신바스 거의 놀 신사 신도 신바스 도
barren field,
and
right?
good bill bad field, this ancient Kadu.
English is a good field, fertile field.
Good field.
good field.
It's fertile field.
Shin the same as na, as Burgi Jana, Shin the same as Sisa Dujal Kuma.
Dujagur. They are bad. We refers to bad one. Shin the Shemba means bad
For
or
example, it will not work just to put seeds on a fertile
Sisa, double
field.
go can damage to do it. Ega Tasha Kuno, Shinsa, Shin the same as na, Sisa Dujal Kuma. Ega Mada in our mother is Mada. Shinsa Shin to Shema, ancient Gatrido. Good field,
This is a good field, fertile field. For example, it will not work just to put seeds on a fertile field without actually planting them in season. So it says in English, if it's it doesn't help even if the field's fertile to plant seeds if it's not the right season. So that's what the English says.
that's true. Yeah. The day I was right translation.
Ancient Gatrido.
先把这些知识的，过去最大的就嘛的，反正是他多了做新多了做白，那几个热心多了做那几个嘛的是，先把这几个下。
So if it's winter and you even plant a seed in a
Yeah,
fertile field,
yeah,
it's not going to grow.
yeah,
That's what the
yeah.
English says.
过去最别晓得原卡了，他这个啥的新卡要不就了，点头到位那几个嘛的是原卡几个嘛了，这是先把这个过下，过下先，你这个先把这个过下。
Shinsa Shenba, Shenba Sana, Shinsa Doja, Shinsa Yaga Niku. Shinsa Shenba Ina, Doja Goba Ina, and could turn to do Sul Tower.
来来，
Gunkal down the Jemaro,
这个嘛了，对。
Samara Togman, Samara. And I could have been Sadu.
来
Mammy can do, Tomara Tobaina, and I couldn't have Yamumaro. Then Naji pauses in there, and then Goagishi, Chavajeres, Marba, Ya, Gun, Cheese Marba, Cheese, and Nasu Gawaya Waters. Goag having a towers, Tata Majuna, and then also Pomberes over there.
So is it saying when it's not in season, it's not a fertile field? Is that what Rinpoche is saying? The Tibetan really says that it's not. It's commenting on the fertile field. It's saying when the season's not there, it's not a fertile. It's a bad field.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're just looking at the wording in the English versus the Tibetan.
Deshi, Dele Taji, Joy, Shinsa Tamba, Tujas and the Posse de Marbe, Tuja Taji do, and then Junchi Mabara, Junchi Maba Deleje, Saban Tabi, Chuban de Las, Tuja, Posse de la, and then also Dele Taji saw, and the Gay Saban Kadu Donna, Diguaris, Taba Chuban de la Yang, Debi Shujis, Sona Jimaba Jujis, and then Debi, and then Sona Chibu Yashu, Manataba Sanji Yabu Yum Arson to Merwa. Sona Jimaba Juji, Dole Somba Tar, Shaju Majuna, Che Shinto, Pamba Inos, Chubal Kubitu to Remedy.
So then it says, so it is appropriate to continuously plant the seeds of temporary. So when one is engaging in virtuous activities, it doesn't matter if it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. One can continuously engage in them and accumulate merit. So here it's saying that a normal field is a bad field if it's not in season. But if one it doesn't matter the season when one is accumulating virtue related to the field of merit, because one can continuously, winter, spring, summer, or fall, accumulate that and work to plant the seeds of temporary happiness and certain goodness throughout the 4 seasons in the fertile field that gives rise to all temporary happiness and certain goodness in this and future lives. But you till this field with the plow of faith. So one needs the faith of conviction actively in order to sow these seeds of virtue at all times.
다 저번에서 위도 어떤 산지 사자투발 라바요 말이스. 대난 하용하들레스. 최단 자유 신단네. 사자투바 최단 자유 네 저번에 신단네. 지대소나 마치데스. 지대소나 요 말이스. 최는 지내나지 조 네, 대산제비 자말라스 대산제비 자마 장서야 다 주지 자마 소태고 주지 자마 다 산지도 먹이 좀 주질 자르데 산지 주지 자마 요로다 소태고 주지 자마레 안내 샹생 주지 자마레 안내 하고 주지 자마로 왔다 대산제비 자말라스 자마레스 나가 타투 마치비 나가 타투 마치비 최단 신다 제다와 최람 해다 뇌지비 나바메바 투마지스 나가 타투비 나가 타투비서 뭐라 나가 타투 마치비 나갈 타요 말아 타메바 나지 타메바 대다도 최단 신다 제다와 Chenmo Moyarite, Sanjil Payata, Noya Kayomaris, Chola Meta, Noya JV, Nabamima too much is. She's on what I was, what then is something said.
Okay, so then it says, if you do not do this, you will be extremely poor in merit. Hence, as the praise and honor of one worthy of honor says, no field of merit like you exists in the three worlds. You are the supreme recipient of gifts, the pure one who makes a row of monks pure. Just as the height and breadth of the firmament have no limit, there is no limit to the fruition of helping or harming you. So here it says, no field of merit like you exists in the three worlds. The supreme recipient of offerings. So here is speaking of Buddha being the supreme recipient of offering because he is the pure one. Here, pure is referring to ethical discipline. So we can say the Buddha is a holder of all of the ethical disciplines. If we look at the ethics which abandon the 10 non-virtuous activities, the Buddha is the holder of that. We look at the individual liberation vows, the ethics of the individual liberation vows. We look at the ethics of the bodhisattva vows, the ethics of the Tantrayana. The Buddha is the holder of all of these various forms of ethical disciplines. So this is why it says the pure one, the ethical one. This word purity is referring to ethics. So the ethical one who makes a row of monks pure. Just as the height and breadth of the firmament have no limit, there is no limit to the fruition of helping or harming you. So there is no limit to the helping, making offerings, and so forth. And benefit, being of benefit, making offerings, is no limit to the goodness that comes from helping, and the opposite from harming.
That Abbot to Sare, Takante, Deba Pusha Chalat Sana Kudis, and there was that Abbot to Duhon in Ani Nanda, Duhon to Lusanji. Kujuba and what the good regmaris, Sama Chagres, what the Deshi do the Gobat Narul, Sanji Kumo Jingra, Sanji Kuyasakatele, Kuyasakan, good deed what the Sanji Kuduba, good deed Yumaris.
It's stating in the commentary that if there is a statue or a form of the Buddha in the monastery, then the impurities, because the Buddha is pure of ethics. I'm missing the part of this. Gujri.
Guru means offering, especially offered to the sanghas or to the Buddhas.
Okay.
So you are not appropriate to enjoy it, not ordinary people. But monks or nuns are allowed to enjoy it or to eat it, like food or any offering. With a dedication, with a strong faith, you offer to some Sangha community or monastery or whatsoever. And because why monks and nuns are allowed to enjoy it? Because the Buddha statue around, they are living around the Buddha statues. By Buddha's purity can purify the Yeah, okay.
So I think that was clear to everyone, right? The purity of the Buddha makes it so that there isn't any non-virtue accumulated by the monks and nuns who are not that pure, who are eating the offering or the alms given to the three jewels.
Yes.
So there isn't a transgression or a negativity that the monastics create because of the purity of the Buddha.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is what is stated, that this downfall will not be created because of the purity of the Buddha, because of the pure ethics or the purity of the Buddha. the Dutsu Zinsar.
진짜도.
Drabudue.
야,
Jutsu Harmony, 예.
야. 다 듣는 와 된다래도 와. 제바 됨버 제바. 제바 드더래샤. 제바 신 초라 타면 신기 통통 매바네 오게 떠상와 만두비 그저 쳐발라 뒤탕지 좀 셔서 가데 그저선 쳐봐야게 위임한테 상로 야바 매바이나 네 야바 말했어 떠상와 만두비 어때 아니 일하지다 나타 어떤 쳐봐야도 그저선 쳐봐야게 통을 매바이나 네 야바 말했어
So the next section deals with the motivation. If one is making an offering to the three jewels but does not thinking properly, then this is not good. So this next section deals with the way of thinking relative to this offering. The Tranka Gatsudue, the Jayan Sheba.
Tranka
1, 2, 3,
Tranka
4, 5, 6. Dunba Garde. Dunba Garde.
Dunba 초발로 급이주다게 신사 신바사들에 신사들 대단지 비자마서 론장송아 어디를 대담들에
Pure. What's that? The category? The purity. Purity. So the seventh category is purity, and then the eighth category is the right thinking, right way of thinking, appropriate thinking. So that's the eighth category of Jayan Sheba's text. So we're out of time. Thank you, everyone, for listening well, and we'll do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. And thank you, Rinpoche, for all your help. Appreciate it. Tu Chenmo Rinpoche, Shira Sobudu, Shira Sobudu, Shira Pato. So the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lobsang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. Whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Rinpoche, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche, Gutsi Shapi Denolo, Natsu Lamrim